You're watching the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. For match previews, match day vlogs, match reactions, and more, make sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel, where of course we're giving you all the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Today we're back again with another video. We're going to be taking a deep dive into what John Swift, our new signing, can bring to West Bromwich Albion. And for that, I think we need a bit of Reading opinion and somebody who's watched him over the past 6 years of his time at Reading. We're joined by Adam Jones from Reading website, the Tilehurst End. Adam, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Obviously, as a Reading fan, I'm a little bit traumatised by last season, but I'm sure you kind of feel the same way. So, I'm happy that we can kind of sympathise with each other. But I'm excited to get into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very safe space for sharing the troubles of last season, certainly, Adam. But first of all, how are you feeling about next season? Because of course you got Paul Ince back in charge. What are your thoughts on that? How are you feeling going into the new campaign?
You know what? I thought about it earlier, and I'm thinking we've got Paul Ince as manager in 2022, and I had a really deep think about it, and I was like, I can't say that I was very happy, to be honest, having to think about that earlier. Really thought about it, but no, as I said to you before we came on air, I just feel a little bit nervous at the moment. Obviously, we've got 7, 8, 9 first teamers contracted to the club, and the rest are kind of out of contract at the moment. And obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty as well. As part of our embargo, we've got to kind of adhere to financial restrictions and transfer restrictions as well, which will make things quite difficult for us in the summer. Obviously, we brought in Mark Bowen as kind of a man behind the scenes, and we've needed a footballing head behind the scenes for a long time. So that provides us with like one little bit of promising news. But the overriding feeling really is one of nervousness, and a very kind of different situation to the Baggies, really.
Yeah, and I noticed that you'd got the guy from Spurs, the head of recruitment. Is it that seemed to be quite a well received move from a lot of Reading fans?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know too much about him, to be honest with you. Obviously, you've got Gareth Bale, which is, I don't think he'll pull off the same kind of move for us. But we've needed, again, someone to be in recruitment, a real specialist, and kind of recruiting based off of, scouting and data rather than, anything else like external influences. I think that's what we've needed, really. I want players in based on talent and not on kind of a contact book or anything else. So to have a specialist kind of recruitment man in there is it's very promising, and I'm very hopeful for the summer, keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, of course you are here, Adam, to talk about John Swift. I can't say we've helped you very much by nabbing him off your hands. But I think the first question I have, Adam, is were you a little bit surprised to see him move to Albion? Because I think obviously quite a few Premier League clubs linked, and I think a lot of Reading fans were kind of surprised that he decided to go to Albion. Was that the case for you?
Slightly. I always thought he was kind of that person that would be on the borderline, really, of being kind of top of the Championship, lower end Premier League. I think he's got kind of like the Dwight Gale syndrome, as I'd call it, really, kind of being perhaps too good for the Championship and not good enough for the Premier League. I think he could have been a bench player on the Premier League, but I think in terms of Championship, I think he'll get plenty of kind of game time at West Brom, and perhaps that's one factor that's made him not kind of come to the Hawthorns. I know that there's been a lot of kind of back and forth on social media between our sets of fans and our fans saying that he could do a lot better. I think that, obviously I cover West Brom from a point of view of kind of being a neutral at FLW. I cover kind of the whole shebang, really. I look at Albion. I think they're a club with a lot of potential. I think you've got some great youngsters in there. Obviously, Reyes Cleary is obviously going to be off, but I think you've still got the likes of Taylor Gardner-Hickman. I was very impressed with him, and I think you've definitely got just like a lot of potential, really, kind of in the whole club. And I think that, perhaps not under Bruce and Gourlay. I'm a little bit kind of sceptical of those two appointments. But you're a club that can definitely push for the Premier League. Perhaps without those two, perhaps even just with a new manager. I mean, maybe Steve Bruce will kind of prove me wrong, but I just think he has a lot of baggage from the Newcastle United days. I think if you perhaps change the manager, I think you'll be competing for promotion. So I'm not 100% kind of surprised to see him go to West Brom. As I said, I think you've got a lot of potential, and Ron Gourlay's probably sold him a really good vision going forward. And I think, as long as you retain some of your first teamers and kind of freshen things up a little bit, I think you'll be pushing. So I'm not 100% kind of surprised to see him go there. I think it's definitely a step up. A lot of people, a lot of Reading fans are saying it's a step sideways, and I think that's probably kind of a little bit of bias there. But I think it's a bit of a step up, to be honest.
Yeah, it's good to hear, because I did see the likes of Brentford, Leeds sort of linked with him, and I thought that they might pop in for him. Of course, he did play for Brentford, I think, on loan from Chelsea at one point in his career. But Adam, where do you think his best position is? I think a lot of us probably are assuming it's a number 10, but are there any other positions that he could play as well?
You know what? I mean, he's played in a more of a defensive midfield role at times for Reading. He's mainly been a number 10. That's where he started off, really. 16-17 season really flourished. Has mainly been a number 10. During the 21-22 season, and that's where he's mainly been very good. So I definitely have him as a number 10. I think if you put him in defensive midfield, I think you risk your midfield kind of being overrun. There's even like a little bit of a new position which I was kind of fascinated to see John Swift in. I think that was the wing position, where he's been deployed on the left hand side perhaps once or twice. And I think contributed on the left hand side against Blackburn and Barnsley later on in the 21-22 season, and got some kind of played vital part in those goals. I don't think he got the assist because I think in the Blackburn one it deflected off someone, and I think the Barnsley one's kind of similar as well. I think Morrison laid it off for Josh Laurent, but he played crucial parts in those two goals, and he did it kind of on the left-hand side, and I like seeing him cut in from the left-hand side and deliver across, because he's got real quality kind of crossing the ball in. His deliveries and his set pieces are second to none, really. But I definitely kind of have him in the number 10 position. I think that you'd perfectly suit a 4-2-3-1 next season. I know that Steve Bruce has said that he wants to revert to a back four. And I think having John Swift in that number 10 role, obviously, because you're probably not going to get as much output from your kind of wing backs, say they're going to go to your full backs. I think having him, right there kind of as an advanced midfielder will help to compensate for the lack of output kind of going down the wing. So I think that's his position, to be honest with you. I think the 10 kind of suits him.
Yeah, that's absolutely the kind of position that we've been missing, of course. I'm sure you know, Adam, but when Ishmael came in, he didn't want a creator in his squad. He didn't kind of want a John Swift, if you like. But now Bruce is in, he's desperate for that kind of player. But his numbers are very impressive. Of course, 11 goals, 13 assists. That's his best season of his career statistically. How important has he been to Reading in keeping you guys sort of out of that survival fight? Because, of course, the points deduction kind of helped with keeping you above the drop zone. But he seems to have had a massive influence on you. Yeah,
100%. I mean, I'd even go as far as saying if it wasn't for him, we'd be in League One right now, just because of his contributions really early on in the season. I think he has gone missing a little bit at times in the second half of the campaign. I think that's partly down to Paul Ince's kind of direct style of play that we've been playing, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think you need to kind of get the ball down and on the ground if you want him to be very effective. But when he has contributed and stepped up to the plate, obviously inconsistency at times does kind of perhaps even prevented him from getting a move to the Premier League, is that consistency. But when he's on it, and he's a real game changer. So I'd have no doubt that he'd be a real asset kind of for you, and kind of providing you with the goals needed to kind of get yourself kind of in the top half of the table. I know that as you kind of alluded to, you've struggled going forward really. I think Ishmael, I think, was partly style of play. I think Bruce, you may have issues with the style of play. I'm not 100% sure, and I think it's partly been down to the playing style is the reason why you've been kind of very poor going forward. I love Albion, but I think going forward in those kind of two games that you played against us, you were very, very poor in the final third, and that can be rectified quite easily. You've got the likes of Joe Rothwell as targets as well as a target. I think you've got Tom Lawrence and Jed Wallace. I think you could, straight away. I think you've got 10 goals with Swift. I think DK coming back, probably 15 goals. I think Tom Lawrence, you've got 5 or 10 goals maybe, or Jeb Wallace 5 or 10 goals and plenty of assists. Joe Rothwell kind of perhaps a little bit behind Swift. I think you've got 5 goals. So yeah, I'm not going off a little bit of a tangent here, but I think you've definitely got more goals if you get some of your some of the targets in that you want to get in. I think you'll have no problems going forward. Obviously, your defence wasn't hugely bad last season. Perhaps you'll say differently, but obviously from what I can see in the league table and some of the performances, especially kind of in the reverse fixture at our place last season, I thought you were pretty decent defensively. We didn't test you a lot, but yeah, I mean, going forward, I think it will provide a lot for you, and he definitely provides a lot for us. He's been instrumental really in kind of unlocking defences.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, defence is definitely a strong point. We've got so many centre backs; they're coming out of our ears. To be honest, we've got about 8 of them. But as you said, attacking wise, especially, I think the home fixture against yourselves was the one that stuck out for me because, yeah, we must have had about 90 chances, and we couldn't seem to really carve out a clear cut one. We must have got the ball in around that area, but just couldn't create something clear and proper to score from.
Yeah.
Adam, what do you think he does best? What do you think are his main sort of best attributes that he's shown at Reading?
I think in recent times his set pieces have been absolutely exceptional. When he's kind of lined up really kind of 5 yards away from the 18-yard box, or maybe even slightly further on from that, you feel like you have a 50% chance of scoring. He's a real weapon in that department. So set pieces, if you've got a free kick kind of on the edge of the box, I'd definitely have him on kind of in there. I think, as I said, unlocking defence with some of his passes, I think he's been absolutely exceptional with some of those passes. I saw an image on The Athletic earlier, and I think it was against Huddersfield at home, where he played that kind of defensive splitting pass for George Puskas. That's kind of the thing that he does best, kind of setting people free. I think he's also very good at roaming in midfield as well. I think that's why you need to deploy him as a number 10, kind of just having him in that kind of roaming position. I think he does that very well. He always kind of he wants to show for the ball a lot of the time, and as I said, it's some of his deliveries. Not even just from set pieces, but from crosses as well. He's been a real assist kind of specialist, and his deliveries have been fantastic. And I think that'll kind of really work well with Daryl DK up front, who's been very prolific really at Barnsley and Orlando City. So I think those two will probably link up very well. That's what I think his main attributes are, kind of his ability kind of on the ball, his technical ability. His mobility perhaps at times isn't kind of the best, but some of his kind of end products, he's scored a few screamers for us as well, and just his kind of quality kind of on the ball and deliveries have been absolutely superb. So yeah, if I was Steve Bruce, I'd be looking to get him on the ball as much as possible. But the one message that I'd have for Steve Bruce is just kind of leave him alone and leave him to do his own thing, because he'll come back for the ball, he'll come deep for the ball. He'll advance up the pitch as well. Obviously, as I said, his mobility probably not the very best. But I think in terms of Bruce, just leave him alone. He can fill in different positions on the left hand side as well, and defensive mid. But yeah, there's a lot he can do, and I could probably go on for hours about what he can do. But yeah, I think the main thing for me is kind of his deliveries, and his end product is second to none. And in the Championship, that's very underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the concerns that a lot of Albion fans might have is some injury problems. We've seen that he's had quite a few absences during his time at Reading. Is this something that we should be worried about? Is this a sort of a regular occurrence of him being a bit injured?
Yeah, and that's been a real kind of frustrating point for us. Obviously, the 2020-21 season where we nearly got the players, I think if we'd had him available for most of the season, I think we would have got into that top 6. I think, his injuries are a little bit of a concern, to be honest with you. I think you need to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if you can judge it too much, because we seem to have injury problems for years at Reading, and I'm pretty sure we've had more injuries than the average team really in the Championship. So yeah, I don't know. There's part of me that thinks I'd be fascinated to see him kind of under a different kind of fitness regime and kind of under different methods, and see whether that improves. But I'd say that's definitely something to be wary of. You shouldn't expect him to have a 46 game season, but when he is on the pitch, he'll provide for you. But I'd definitely have more. I'd have more firepower in there. I'd definitely be looking to get the likes of Tom Lawrence in, or Jeb Wallace and Joe Rothwell, just to compensate really, because as I said, I don't think he's going to play 60 to 46 league games for you, or if you get to playoffs, maybe even 49, who knows. But I I think, you could get like a 30 or 35 game season out of him, but don't expect him to be available for the entire campaign.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. It sounds like we've got a pretty exciting player on our hands. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me on the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel today. Where can we hear more from you, mate?
My Twitter handle is just at @ajonesrfc. It's mainly Reading stuff. So I understand if you don't want to follow and you just want to follow Albion stuff. I do the odd Albion piece. I like covering your club, and I wish you all the best of luck for next season and beyond, because you've got potential in there. But just keep an eye on Steve Bruce and Ron Gourlay. That's what I'm going to say.
That's a little bit of a warning from Adam. We know he's Ron Gourlay in particular is not too popular in Reading, but yeah, make sure to go and check out Adam's work via the links in the description. And a big thank you to him for joining us to chat a little bit about John Swift. But it sounds like we've got an exciting talent. But that does bring me to the end of this video on the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe if you're new and comment your thoughts on John Swift down below. Are you looking forward to seeing him in an Albion shirt next season? We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.